Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only podcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and today in the Movie Film Studios Memorial Theatre, we sat down and watched the 2017 comedy action heist caper, Logan Lucky. Lucky us. But before we do that, it's time to do what we always do, and that is the box office report. So, Isaac, last week we rushed into production A Very Puppum's Odyssey.
We did, yeah.
Indeed.
With our existing menagerie ensemble cast of beloved puppet characters.
Yes,
yeah, we had Magellan the Black Panther, obviously. Sebastian the Howler Monkey, Lucy the Meerkat,
Zeeby the Zebra,
Ophelia the Elephant. I mean, I don't need to recount them all.
No.
You know them, you love them.
I do.
And the public does too. A little bit of a setback there. We have a legal cease and desist that has been put against us.
No.
And you might think it might come from the Henson Company. It doesn't. It comes from another studio doing historic fiction remakes using puppet characters.
Okay.
They call themselves the Pumpets. And again, you may think that it's a lazy. We've just replaced one of the letters in puppet with an M.
Yep.
But they've done. They called it the Pumpets. The Pumpets do the Odyssey.
Yep.
They've done the Pumpets do the Iliad, and they've sued us for our it's obviously an illegal dispute. Having said that, they are being sued by the Henson Company. And we are now embroiled in a chain of legal action.
It's a turducken of legal affairs.
It is the turducken of legal affairs. Luckily, we have. I'm not worried. We have the legal department to deal with it.
No.
It really hasn't halted production that much.
Yep. As we've recalled previously, we're in a 50-story building. Top floor is the green room where we pitch our films. Every other floor is filled with lawyers.
There are now 14 sub-basements as well.
Really?
Because we said, no more, we're not building any higher, no more floors of lawyers above the green room. They just started building down. Like it's almost like a termite's nest down there. So
there's the server room for Mephistobitter.
Yeah.
Our streaming platform, and then just more lawyers.
Yeah,
great.
It's lawyers all the way down.
Great.
So they'll handle it. Obviously, got some seamstresses on making many iterations of puppets.
Yep.
And I think, I'm not sure if you got the email, flights booked to Greece.
Great. Did we buy that island?
We did.
Great.
And what we're doing as well, because obviously quite a lot of that the intellectual property we're going to shoot in Greece is obviously now in out of copyright and in the sort of Creative Commons sort of domain, the public domain. We decided that one of the more sensible things to do there as well is shoot every a remake, Puppum's remake of every movie ever set in Greece, and we can hold on to it for 100 years or so until it comes back. So we're doing. Mamma Mia, I believe, is set on a Greek island, so we're going to shoot a very Puppum's Mamma Mia. Just wait until that lapses into the public domain, and then we can release that.
Great.
We're even doing a very Puppum's Greece. Technically not set in Greece, but there was a bit of confusion. We thought we might as well do it anyway. So
okay, I like it. And that we have no other. We can't think of any other film set in Greece.
No other film set in Greece. No,
none whatsoever. In fact, there probably haven't been any other films set in Greece, right?
Who knows? I think My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, again, I haven't seen any of them. It's got the word Greek in there. We'll do it anyway. And we'll set this one in Greece. Very Puppum's My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
All right, so we're not worried. So you will see the Puppums come back to our screens at some point in the future.
Yes, obviously, still some issues getting that Mephistobitter up online. But as soon as it does, we'll digitally stream that right to your eyeballs. I would say favorite device. It's not really available on iPads or iPhones or TVs. You can do it. We've got it on Game Boy Color. We've got exclusive rights to stream onto that. And and
I reckon we get into the hardware.
The Palm Pilot.
The Palm
as
Pilot.
Well.
Oh, great. We should get into the hardware business at some point. You know how Amazon is like, we're going to create this streaming platform, but we're also going to create the devices that you can use to stream it on.
Yeah.
I think that's where we need to go next. And actually just control all aspects of production and distribution.
It's getting a bit more. I mean, I started this movie film studio with you to just come up with movies. I know it. And the business keeps expanding into all these sort of different areas. I mean, at some point, it'd be nice to sort of strip it back and go, we produce films. But the current climate of media distribution isn't like that anymore.
No.
In fact, you mentioned that Disney is looking to be in the business of acquiring 20th Century Fox.
Yeah. It's news this week is that Disney's looking to purchase a lot of Fox's assets, including 20th Century Fox, the movie studio, in a deal worth $60 billion.
60. I mean, we got to get ourselves a slice of that pie.
I think
if there's big fish out there consuming little fish, we're little fish.
If we can get Fox to buy us first, and then Disney buys Fox, then surely we'll get a part of that.
It's true. You know, in fact, to put ourselves like in the running, maybe we should start acquiring other movie studios.
Yeah, great idea. Can we acquire that studio that's making those historical puppet films?
It's true. Like, why not merge with the Puppets? Yeah. And and we can. Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. We start acquiring smaller studios, and people go, "Oh, look, these guys are serious about it. They're acquiring, Disney's acquiring movie film studios and Disney in the same conversation."
Yeah, absolutely.
Suddenly, those $60 billion price tags don't look so.
So, if you own a small movie studio, get in contact with us through Twitter or Facebook, and we'll think about acquiring you.
Yeah, we'll sit down with you, see what you've got to offer, see if it fits in with the movie film studios.
Oh, it will.
Oh, absolutely.
It just will, but. We'll have a sit down meeting anyway.
Yeah, sure. I suppose we should move on then to This Week in Trailers.
This Week in Trailers, yeah.
What did we watch this week, AJ?
Well, we watched a couple of films this week, or a couple of trailers rather. The first cab off the ranks is the next installment in the Maze Runner series. I assume it is a series.
It is a series, yep.
Called The Death Cure.
Death Cure. So this sort of came out about the same time the Hunger Games was sort of sweeping through cinemas and massive money-making
hole, I guess. Yeah,
whatever. They started buying up lots of books by young adult authors.
Yep.
This is based on a series by James Dashner. So
sure.
the Maze Runner is the first one, and Scorch Trials, Death Cure. I think there's a fourth one. I've read the first two books.
Yep.
I've seen the first film, and now they're obviously onto the third one. It's like it's a weird series of books. Conceptually, sort of bounces all over the place. I really liked the first book. Really liked the first movie, but in a way that that sort of phase has sort of come and gone. Right, the Hunger Games. I think Mockingjay Part 1 and 2 was
years ago.
And gone years and years ago. They did this for a lot of things, like Insurgent and Divergent, I think are two that I think also had a third one. I'm not sure they're making a third movie.
Yep.
At least this film franchise has got enough legs that they're going, you know what? The first one made enough money, we made two. Two made enough money, we make three. Who knows if they'll make the fourth book, but there's sort of very few of those things that... So the Golden Compass, I'm not sure if you ever... is based on a trilogy by Philip Pullman. They made the first film and kind of like ended it like 20 pages shy of the end of the first book.
Yep.
And obviously had plans on doing all three, and it just flopped.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And that had a huge cast in it, didn't it?
Yeah, that had Daniel Craig and
was Nicole Kidman in that too? Yeah.
That's what Freddie Highmore is the voice of the...
Okay, yeah.
Pantilimon, I think his name is.
Sure. But I mean, the question I have to ask about the Maze Runner as well is who's giving it legs? Like, who's bankrolling it and who's still watching them? I don't has there been demand out there that we just haven't been aware of for the continuation of this series or what?
Who knows?
And correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen these films, but I do remember the trailers and sort of being aware of them as entities. Are any of the original actors in this film?
They all, like the main guy and the main girl.
Yep.
Effie from Skins, who was in one of our favorite films, Pirates of the Caribbean 5.
Yep. Dead Man
Chesty Tales.
Chesty Tales.
They were both in the first one. I think Julianne Moore was in the original. I think she's subsequently dropped off. This one does actually have an ensemble cast of people that you recognize. So it's got Littlefinger from Game of Thrones.
Yep.
It has Jojen from Game of Thrones. It's pretty much just all the characters who have died in Game of Thrones.
They've been freed up.
Now just signed on. Like, I think the studio must be just next door. And then they like read their final scripts, dejected that their characters are finally dead. Like, there's a guy at the gate go, "Hey guys, you want to be in the next Maze Runner film?"
Yep.
I was like, "We don't have a job, might as well come across."
So what about Sean Bean?
Yeah, he was the maze in the first one. Look, I have no idea what Sean Bean's up to, but
we'll see that in cinemas sometime later.
Having said that, it's actually kind of an exciting time for movie film studios because most of the films that we've reviewed trailers for are starting to come out.
Yeah.
So like we did Geostorm and we're very excited about Geostorm.
Yep.
Downsizing came out at the movies. I think we mentioned Downsizing in our second episode. So that's
Jumanji's out soon.
About to come out. I think Boxing Day release here in Australia. Very, very excited about Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
We may do, as we did with the Geostorm, we'll not wait for the Blu-ray release. We might have to go
private screening.
Go to our private screening.
Yeah.
Might be a bit more difficult private screening because Boxing Day and New Year's Day are traditionally the biggest days at the cinema.
Yeah.
We may maybe just to be generous, we open up our private screening to the public as well.
I think that's a good idea.
So
it's very charitable of you. It's very Ebenezer Scrooge at the end of A Christmas Carol of you to do that. What day is it today, sir? Why, it's Jumanji screening day.
It's Jumanji screening day. What's the second trailer we watched this week?
Oh, well, it's the sequel to one of our favourite films of all time. And actually the topic of our very first podcast. It was Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. I
don't know how to classify this. Is it the second Jurassic World film or is it the fifth Jurassic Park film?
I don't know, and I hate that we have to ask these questions. Like, why are we in this point? Why are we in this point in 2017 where we have to actually sit down and figure out the semantics of like, is it a sequel or is it the fifth film in the franchise? I don't know, and I don't care.
We'll call it the second Jurassic World film because I have very much billed it as Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Yes.
Fallen Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I think, it's going to be one of those things where any franchise film with the word kingdom in it has to be a horrible film.
Yep.
This looks pretty bad, to be honest.
It looks awful.
I quite recently listened to our first podcast and I was very harsh of Jurassic World. Again, it's not an enjoyable movie like when you sit down and pull it to pieces.
Yep.
But having said that, I'd probably rather sit down and watch Jurassic World than most of the other films that we've watched so far. Yeah,
Really?
Sometimes I'm like...
Pirates 5? Really?
No, I'd absolutely watch Jurassic World over Pirates 5.
Mummy?
Over The Mummy as well. Maybe sometimes possibly even over The Goonies if I'm in the right mood. I think The Goonies you have to be in a childish sort of mood. Yeah. It has the action, it has the adventure, it has the dinosaurs, and it has Chris Pratt. There's enough elements there to keep you coming back.
Why not just watch Jurassic Park?
Exactly. Well, that's the point. If you're offering the choice between Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, I'd choose the park every time.
Of course. But anyway, this looks terrible. The plot seems to be we need to go back to the island because we need to retread the plot of the Lost World Jurassic Park.
Where Jurassic World was just a shell of a remake of Jurassic Park, this looks like a shell of a remake of the Lost World.
A shell of a sequel.
But yeah, so I don't know why you would. So the basic idea in this is that the island is about to explode. There's some sort of like volcano.
Well, it's not. It's not actually described as such. All Chris Pratt says is the island is exploding.
Yeah, and they're like,
so it could be anything.
These dinosaurs have rights. We have to go there and protect them. And the way that they wrote Chris Pratt into doing that is because he has an emotional bond with Blue, who was the female Velociraptor character. I keep saying Velociraptor and hitting that TOR like I should just go Australian, go Velociraptor.
You want to hitting it Velociraptor is kind of like you're a British explorer from the 1800s and you're off to colonize the new world.
Sure. So they all show up on the island and supposedly to protect the species because they have as much of a right to live as any. So it's a conservationist effort, which I think, again, Lost World was a protect the dinosaur conservation effort thing.
Yeah, but it was like protect them by leaving them there. Yeah. Whereas in this one, it's like, well, the island's not going to exist anymore, so we're going to take them all off the island? Like,
who knows? Who knows what their actual plan is?
They only turn up in a couple of trucks and maybe a handful of people. It's like, what's your plan here?
Anyway,
I don't know.
In the trailer, the volcano erupts, there's lava flowing, there's smoke flowing, all the dinosaurs are running away from it and end up running off a cliff.
Yep.
And the Dallas
Buyers Club.
Yeah. She and some other guy drive off one of those little bubbly ball glass things from the first film, and Chris Pratt is running behind and he gets engulfed by smoke.
Yep.
You mentioned to me, which I didn't know, that apparently all the shots in this are from the first 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah, Colin Trevorrow the director of the first film and the screenwriter for this one, has stated on Twitter or something that all the content from the trailer is from the first 20 minutes. So
who knows where they're going to go from here? And I don't know why you would even show that or admit that, or because I mean, one of the sequences is a good sort of like 2-minute sequence, which is just like, this is the shots that we've done the special effects for, and we have to put out a trailer.
Yep.
I don't know. I will watch it, but I don't know if I'll enjoy it.
I will watch it if we do it in our, like, during the Blu-ray release. I don't want to pay money to watch this. I'm going to have to anyway to get the Blu-ray, but I don't want to go to a cinema and watch this. I just don't care enough. Like, I hated Jurassic World so much, and this looks even worse, if it's even possible.
Well, this is the problem. By them saying that it is just the first 20 minutes of the film, it gives me hope that they could just go. They could go somewhere incredibly like unforeseen in the last end of the last part of the film, and you go, "Wow, that's like Nazi dinosaurs in space." That's exactly what the public was crying out for.
Yeah, but see, that's crap of them if they save it for the end. We have the balls to have it right at the start of the film, right? Like, we are like, no, our film is about Nazi dinosaurs in space from the start and at the finish, not plot twist halfway through.
Yeah.
So no, I'm sorry, that still wouldn't.
Yeah, well, there you go. What I think they've really missed is focusing on the character of Barry Nibbles. I think it's such a misstep of them. Like they went to all the effort of bringing back Chris Pratt, and of course, like everyone loved Chris Pratt. But the second most popular character in Jurassic World doesn't even get a look in the trailer.
That's
and maybe that's why hold some things back.
You know what? That could be what the film is about. So the first 20 minutes are about tying up all the loose ends from Jurassic World that everyone cared about. So what happens to Chris Pratt? What happens to Dallas Buyers Club? What happens to the T-Rex and the Velociraptor? They all die.
They all died.
They all get subsumed by lava, or consumed rather. And then the camera just sort of drifts away from that scene of devastation down into the water, down, where the lava can't get it, and it's just Barry Nibbles, and the rest of the film is just Barry Nibbles.
But what is that film though? Like,
I don't know. It could be like,
I think we do like a what's the one? Benjamin Button. Yeah. And it's just his adventures through life. Yeah. And I think Barry Nibbles has got that immortal jellyfish thing where at any point he can revert back to his juvenile state.
Okay, yep.
And theoretically live forever.
Yep.
So it is pretty much just the Barry Nibbles, Benjamin Button story.
I like that, the camera goes down to the water and then Barry Nibbles just puts on a hat, grabs his briefcase and goes, well, that's the end of Barry Nibbles. I'm out of here. And then he just swims off, and then we follow him.
Yeah,
and see where he goes. I would watch that.
I think so. I mean, to be fair, I do, and often find myself watching the things that we release.
But speaking of films with pseudo sequels, which I guess Jurassic World kind of is a pseudo sequel to Jurassic Park. This week we watched Logan Lucky, which you could say is kind of a redneck version of Ocean's 11.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that is
why not?
The best way of describing it. Instead of a big casino, it's NASCAR.
Yep.
Instead of suave suit wearing George Clooney, it's West Virginian Channing Tatum.
And Adam Driver.
And
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig is in there as well.
So this film was directed by Steven Soderbergh, who also did the Ocean's trilogy.
Yep. The Informant was another film he did I quite liked. Was he Aaron Brockovich? I saw his name associated with that. I'm not sure if he actually directed it.
I don't think he directed that. But he did Inside the Candelabra, or no, Beyond the Candelabra? Behind the Candelabra. And he's also done a bunch of TV work and so on and so forth. Funny thing with Soderbergh as well is that he retired from directing films after Behind the Candelabra. And came back to direct this one because he loved the screenplay so much, which was sent to him by some anonymous screenwriter.
Yeah, so it's credited as Rebecca Blunt, but any further probing shows that people are not sure if she's a real person. They speculate that, she is supposedly maybe Soderbergh's wife or
Soderbergh himself, actually.
Yeah, who knows? Like, the really weird thing about it is that the script just feels so perfectly Steven Soderbergh that you'd struggled. It's like I really thought he would have written this because it's just so...
It has that same spark and that same wit and the same flow, I guess, as his other films. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I think it's worth doing our little 2-minute recap.
2-minute recap?
Yes, indeedy. So, as we've established, this is Isaac's domain. Are you ready?
I am indeed.
Brilliant. All right, 2 minutes on the clock, and your time starts now.
So there is our character Logan Lucky. I don't
Jimmy
remember.
Logan.
Jimmy, sure. Logan comes from the family name. There's 2 brothers and a sister, played by Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, and
Riley Kellogg.
Who knows? She is from, I think she's in Magic Mike and a few other bits and pieces.
Which Steven Soderbergh directed.
Yeah, there you go. Channing Tatum is down on his luck, divorced dad who gets fired from his job working construction because he's got a limp and they think it's an insurance liability. The Adam Driver thinks that there's a Logan family curse where no one in their family is lucky. I think their mum won the lottery in '83 and lost all the money, and then there's a story about the granddad's diamond. Adam Driver plays an amputee, subradial, I believe he calls it, which means he has his forearm but doesn't have a hand, which is actually handled really, really well in terms of the
CGI.
The way that which they shoot it.
Yeah, Channing Tatum devises a plan to steal money from a massive vault that's sort of adjacent to the work site that he was working on. So the story goes that underneath the NASCAR stadium, a bunch of sinkholes have appeared, and that's why he's down there with a big construction crew to try and patch them up. And one day while they're working there, they kind of accidentally discover a whole bunch of tubes, pneumatic tubes, and it's explained that all the money from the stadium runs down these tubes and into a big, big vault somewhere near the area, somewhere underground. And so he devises a scheme whereby he, his brother, his sister, and a demolitions expert called Joe Bang, played by Daniel Craig, will steal all this money from this underground vault. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking that for our 2-minute recap, it might just be worth leaving it there. Yeah, because it's a Steven Soderbergh film.
It's a Steven Soderbergh film, so you're thinking that perhaps we shouldn't spoil it.
Yeah. So,
well, I think we should mention actually this is an interesting one for us because this is a phenomenal film.
It is really good.
This
is one of the reasons that I really don't want to get into spoilers, because a lot of the time we watch a film and go, we're just going to tell you what happens in it because it's not really worth watching.
Yep.
This is absolutely a film that's worth watching.
100%.
In fact, there have been 2 really great films that begin with the word Logan to have come out this year.
Yeah.
The first one being Logan, and this one, Lucky Logan. So I mean, it's a heist film.
Yes.
You described it as Redneck Ocean's 11. In the film, there's a joke that it's like there's Ocean's 7-11.
Ocean's 7-11,
which is a really, really sort of like nice, well-landed joke. So if you have any interest in going and watching it, then absolutely do.
Yeah.
And probably do before you listen to the rest of the podcast.
We'll probably try and avoid spoilers as best we can from this point on, but no guarantees, really.
I mean, the rest of the heist is just a well thought out, cleverly executed story of sort of like plot twists and events and escapes and
double bluffs, but not for the characters in the film, for the audience. In the same way that Ocean's 11, they go through a heist and you're not really sure what they're doing at any given time for the most part when they're actually performing the heist, and you're not sure how they got away with it. And then after they've actually finished everything, they go back and they show you all the pieces that you didn't see prior, and you see how it all fits together and how they elegantly got away with this crime. Logan Lucky does pretty much the same thing. I think Soderbergh said in an interview that he was attracted to the script because it was like Ocean's. It was like a pared down, basic version of an Ocean's film. So none of the characters have any kind of grand technology. None of them have any glitz or glamour or nice cars or any money whatsoever. I think he said it was like a couple of rubber bands put together to make a heist, and that's effectively what it is as well. It's really cleverly done. Everyone in it is great as well, acting wise, with one exception.
One caveat: Seth MacFarlane shows up as a London businessman who is an energy drink owner who sponsors one of the NASCARs, and the part could have easily been played by Russell Brand, because it just seems to be Seth MacFarlane trying to do Russell Brand. It's really kind of frustrating having him in the film because he is a little bit inconsistent with that English accent, and his character is just kind of like annoying and over the top. And like, whereas every other character seems sort of like perfectly cast, that's like the one misstep that I feel they had in the film. He's not horrible in the film, and he has a very small role, but I just don't think he's necessary in that as that character.
I almost feel like he was in there to try and give the film an antagonist. So in Ocean's 11, there is a very clear antagonist in the form of
President Andy
Garcia, who owns a bunch of casinos, and he sort of shafted one of the members of the Ocean's group.
Well, So George, is it George Elliott? I don't actually.
It is, yeah.
But also he's now dating Danny Ocean's wife.
Yes.
So like, there's a few reasons
why
to screw him over.
He comes across as very odious and very uptight. But this film doesn't really have a clear antagonist at all. Like, no, they're not really. They're really just down on their luck. I mean, I think that's the whole point of it. It's kind of like almost like a feel-good story.
Yeah.
You don't really root for, or you don't really have like a thing where you're like, oh man, I hope they triumph over those bad guys, because there aren't any bad guys in it. Whereas Seth MacFarlane's character kind of fits that a little bit.
He's a jerk who gets his comeuppance.
I mean, if you took him out of the film, I think it would still work fine.
Yes, I think that his character is useful as well. There's sort of certain stakes where characters who are supposed to be locked up in jail are spotted at the NASCAR event, and there's this sort of like, holy hell, this is a spanner in the works of their plan, how they're going to get past. And, it's a good story moment. It creates tension, and then as we sort of go through, we find out the resolution of that, and it's quite satisfying. I didn't like Seth MacFarlane's accent.
No. But speaking of amazing accents, I think we need to talk about Daniel Craig playing Joe Bang. So Daniel Craig plays a burly, tattooed, bleach blonde-haired redneck, so far removed from anything I've ever seen him play before, with an amazing... I thought it was amazing. His accent was...
Again, it's sort of set around North Carolina and West Virginia, like on the border there. I don't specifically know exactly what those accents sound like, but at no point did I think any of the characters felt false to me in the way, with the exception of Seth MacFarlane doing a bad British accent. Daniel Craig, an Englishman doing an American accent, was very, very good. Even like, that's obviously not Channing Tatum's natural accent either. No. And I didn't really ever feel like that slipped at any point.
Katie Holmes is in this film as Channing Tatum's ex-wife, and I felt that her accent, maybe it's just because I know how she speaks very, very well.
Is it all the years you watched Dawson's Creek?
Yeah, so many years. But I mean, it's kind of her voice is imprinted in my mind, and I can hear her doing a southern accent, and it feels like it just doesn't come across as authentic.
Yeah, she has about 6 lines of dialogue though, so I wouldn't
that's
worry
right.
about it
It's incredibly minor. But everyone else in this film does a stellar job.
Stellar casting. Just like the other thing that's really worth pointing out is the cinematography is just stunning.
So Soderbergh himself tends to shoot his own films. So he shot all 3 Oceans films, and he shot this film as well under a pseudonym. Actually, Peter Andrews is what he credits himself as a cinematographer. I don't know why that is. I don't know why he has to do that. I don't know if it's a legal thing.
Guild rules, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh. You didn't get the 400-page document PDF that I emailed through about the Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, wow.
All the laws that we've apparently have to adhere to that no one's,
I skimmed it.
I mean, ignorance is bliss, though, I suppose.
Right.
You're probably better off not reading it.
That's what the lawyers tell me, right?
Yeah.
Like, plead ignorance in court always goes well.
I think they have actually advised me to just like format my hard drive and claim that I've never even seen the document, so I may have to go and do that.
You know what's interesting about this film, though? So there is more Oceans films coming in the form of kind of pseudo-sequels, I guess.
Kate Blanchett, is she in Oceans 8 or 9?
Oceans 8.
I can't remember
so
which number they're calling it.
I think they're setting up an Oceans 8, 9, and 10, and then followed it on with Oceans 11, 12, and 13. I don't think they're prequels. I think they're set after the events of the Oceans films, but it follows the adventures of Danny Ocean, George Clooney's character, his sister, who's also a master criminal.
Sure.
And it's an entirely female cast. Soderbergh's not directing that. He's producing it along with Clooney. And the only character that's confirmed to be appearing in the new trilogy is Matt Damon's character. I don't know if it's going to be anywhere near as good. So I'm kind of glad that Logan Lucky came around and gave me another Oceans film without being another Oceans film. Because I'm a huge fan of those films.
I think everyone is. I think that's the, like, I mean, maybe not everyone. I get a sense of, like, when you see the plan unfurl, it's just like, that's so clever.
Yeah.
And just like they do these like innocuous shots of like closing or opening a boot, and there'll be an item in the boot.
Yeah.
And that item will factor into their disguise or plan later on.
And Soderbergh doesn't just gloss over them either. It's a very consistent, like a very deliberately shot deliberate framing of specific items. So there's a bit where they show, spoiler alert, they show a fireman's helmet in the boot of this car. And the camera holds on that for a while the boot's being closed. And you're like, why is that shot there? There's no reason for it. And it's kind of like, that's kind of confusing. But as is his way of directing and his method of storytelling, it's going to factor in later. And it's really clever to see how that tiny little thing that he had at the start factored in later on as well. And that's the joy of watching these kind of films, I guess. And it's been a while since we've seen something like this, like a really good heist caper.
Because, I mean, again, if we're talking as much as we are about the Oceans film, it's worth talking about the progression, Oceans 11, 12, and 13. I really like Oceans 11. I think it's a fantastic film. I can rewatch it over and over again.
Yep.
I've seen Oceans 12 twice, and it's pretty horrible because it doesn't have any of those payoff moments.
No.
The big sort of plot twist is, we'll pretend that Julia Roberts looks like Julia Roberts, and it's horrible. Or we'll have French man, like, parkouring through laser beams, which is impossible. And the big twist at the end is the egg that they were stealing all along had already been stolen 30 years ago, and that we were stealing a fake. And then they put in, like, we're going to do a holographic represent, like, I'm like, that technology doesn't exist. You can't do what you're doing. The story is idiotic rather than clever.
I think it came through, was it during a writer's strike or something like that? Look.
Unlike, they should have just abandoned it. They've probably already spent a whole bunch of money on George Clooney and Brad Pitt and Matt Damon, Catherine Zeta-Jones and Julia Roberts. And
I think the studio wanted it because it's a Warner Brothers film, and I think they just wanted more sequels, so Soderbergh kind of churned out 12. 13 was an improvement.
Absolutely, but again, not a clever film. You're looking for those sort of plot twists, but it is, I think as you put it when we were discussing this earlier, a revenge film, and it's just them seeking ways of screwing someone over.
Yeah.
And, sure, that's fine, but it's not that clever heist that we all really want to see, that we all expect. They've gone and done a few sort of other different things. She's like, that's nice. Other people are doing those films much better. Stick to the heists, please.
So what you're saying is that there's demand out there for heist films, clever heist films. Films that have an ensemble cast. Very slickly produced, very nice to look at.
Tight cinematography. Yeah. Really nice scores, like some jazz flute going in and around there I quite like.
Yep.
So,
okay. So what do you think?
I think we have unraveled Logan Lucky to the point where we can take it to the green room.
All right. And how are we getting to the green room again?
We're going through an audio sting.
Oh, yeah.
Cue the sting.
And we're here.
Oh, God. You know what? I said before that it is much, much more convenient doing the teleportation audio sting than going up those sort of 50 floors past the lawyers in the elevator.
Yep.
But do you get that, like, in those brief seconds where it's between the Memorial Theatre and here, there's like that other reality that you just sort of catch for just a second.
Just a second.
Like, I always try and keep my eyes closed, but the burning fire and the screams, I can't really tune out so much. It is marginally better than having to walk past the lawyers.
Yeah.
But I'm just scared if I open my eyes what I'll see.
Maybe. Oh, geez, I don't know.
I mean, I'm still happy to keep doing it, but
well, it's so convenient, isn't it? I mean,
just so long as you
screams of torment and anguish. I mean, they're only a second long anyway, so you can put up with that. Well, here we are in the green room.
Yeah.
So I think it's time. We need to do a caper. We need to do a
sort of a heist robbery.
Yeah.
Film
ensemble cast.
All the way.
Yep.
The question is, so what Oceans does is they set it in Vegas, and it feels very Vegas. This one they've set in sort of rural country mining, coal mining America. And they've captured that feel very, very well. We need our own setting, our own sort of like stamp of, again, we have the option of going at any point during time, at any point around the world, which actually might be kind of an interesting, like, I'm thinking ancient history.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So, like, you know, Rob the Pharaoh or Rob the Chinese Emperor or Rob the sort of Roman sort of like Senate. Like, we do like a real sort of period piece heist. Because, like, it still works, right? Because these are the guys that are hoarding all the gold. And then you can do that sort of Robin Hood sort of, you know, steal from the rich and greedy kind of thing going on. So
think about it. Like, all those points in history, particularly with the pharaohs in ancient Egypt, that's when all the treasure was around. That's what we're all chasing nowadays, right? That's where certain films that talk about, like, stealing one artifact from ancient Egypt. Our film can be for a whole vault of artifacts from ancient Egypt.
You know what works really well then? Is if we're going to do like an Oceans 11, Oceans 12, and Oceans 13, we can have them stealing the same artifact, but at different points in history. And like they can have different ancestors of the main character. So go up against that artifact.
That's great.
Really? So Egypt, do you reckon? I think Egypt's
we start
really
with Egypt.
good place to start.
I mean, we haven't seen much. It's everything that comes out of Egypt is really kind of hammy and supernatural, because it's always about, you know, the mystical mummies and the undead, and they had curses. And
what was that horrible Gods of Egypt film that came out last year?
By Alex Proyas, I think, is the director, an Australian director.
But it was very CG, very like the gods are real. Was even Prince of Egypt was an animated film that I never watched, but
that's honestly a great film.
Okay,
but I mean, like, Prince of Egypt didn't really go down the whole. Prince of Egypt was a pseudo-religious film as well.
Exactly. I mean, but this is the things that people get tied up in. They get tied up in the superstitious mummy. They get tied up in the religious sort of aspects, or like the Judeo-Christian Moses and let my people go, or they get tied up in the Anubis Osiris sort of mythology of Egypt. They never go, here is Egypt as it was, and here are these, you know, the classes and the structure of the society and everything like that.
So we won't do no supernatural, no magic, no magic. Great. So it's going to be ancient Egypt as it actually, well, what we assume it actually was.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what are they stealing?
I'm just trying to think, how do we get jazz flute in there? But you can have, like, you know, the snake charmer kind of flute. I'm sure is around.
Jazz snake charmer.
Yeah.
What are other
jazz panpipes?
Did they have panpipes in ancient Egypt?
Probably. That's one of the earliest.
They had drums, instruments. Jazz drums.
Yeah.
Jazz.
Glockenspiel. Sure. I'm probably getting too far ahead of myself with the soundtrack.
That's right.
I think maybe we go like a Ramesses or one of the pharaohs has died. And they're going to inter him in the Valley of the Kings. And they're going to put all of his earthly possessions in there, and they have one night before they seal up the tomb to break in before they've laid all their booby traps or whatever they do for grave robbing, and they have one night to get in and steal and get back out again.
Okay. Brilliant.
And obviously, you know, you've got your main sort of lead Danny Ocean type character who I don't know. And then I'm also thinking, like, in Oceans there's like, or even in Logan Lucky, there's demolitions expert, and then there's Chinese gymnast, and then there's, so like, I mean,
computer
computer hacker, there's getaway drivers. Like, how do they translate into like an ancient Egyptian setting?
Well, I mean, the computer hacker is quite easy because it's a hieroglyphics expert.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So someone that is not only adept at reading them but also writing them. So I'm assuming that in ancient
forgeries.
Egypt,
Oh,
like,
wow.
to be like the hieroglyphics, to be the person that carves hieroglyphics for the pharaohs, you have to be some kind of noble, someone elite, right?
Yeah,
they're not going to just get ordinary.
It's a highly educated position. Like, literacy is at a very low %, so you'd have to almost be like a noble family to be able to read and write.
But
so this character, I like the idea, is like disgraced because he's turned his education into forgering. Forgering? He's a forgerer. So forging, you know, official documents, and like maybe he's been locked up in prison. Isn't Danny Ocean's comes out of the film at the first start of Ocean's 11.
He does, because he was put away for theft.
Yeah, but I like our forger to be maybe like the offsider, like to be the Brad Pitt or the Adam Driver.
Yep.
To
So he's like a secondary character, not quite main. Well, let's look at our main character then. So we need to give him or her actually stakes as to why they're robbing the tomb, because in Oceans and in Logan there's a clear reason why they're doing it. So you get that kind of like moral, like, okay, they're kind of justified, I guess.
I think I've got it. I think so. This character's father is an artisan or a sculptor who has produced the finest gold statue to have ever been created at the behest of Ramesses II. Let's just call it the sequel to Ramesses. And Ramesses is like, thank you, this is the greatest golden statue that has ever been produced. And to ensure that nothing like this will ever be produced again, I'm cutting off your hands. And cuts off the father's hands. And our main character's just like, you've ruined our family for the sake of what? And the father's distraught. And so we go, this is when this main character's a kid. The kid grows up and only has vengeance and wants this statue back because it's, yes, it was for Ramesses, but Ramesses has destroyed the family. And so when Ramesses dies and they're going to bury Ramesses with the statue, this character's like, I'm going to get it back.
That's great, because then the statue can never be seen by anyone else ever again, so it's kind of like their legacy's really getting erased.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fantastic. I love that idea. So our main character is... Well,
what skills do they have then? I suppose. What have they been training for since boy or girlhood to bring them to? Like, I get maybe they are a forger as well. Like again, I don't want to cross over too much with the hieroglyphics person, but if they come from a family of artists and craftsmen, maybe they they've fallen into the take well-known works of carvings of Anubis and.
But I mean, we could almost take one of the side plots of Ocean's 12 where they make a replica of the Fabergé egg digitally. And what if our main character is sort of skilled up in the family trade of gold production?
Yeah, I think so. But instead of being the artist, they make replicas of them, and then they'll go in and swap out like the real obsidian statue of Anubis with like one of cheap sort of rock, and then sell that on the black market. So that's fine. And then I think through that sort of trade, they've come across the person who forges documents and hieroglyphs and stuff like that. And then I think your getaway driver is just like an expert horse rider or charioteer or something like that.
Camel rider.
I mean, it's all. Okay. I think they're all modes of transport. Sail. I'm sure there's the Nile. People sail boats on the Nile.
Absolutely. Like a merchant seaman or something. Okay, I like this. So
I really like the way the story's coming along, to be completely honest. It's
probably one of our better stories.
The most difficult thing with this is like the clever sort of twisty sort of plot sort of stuff. And the question is, do we try and come up with that? Or do we let scriptwriter Stephen V. King...
I think Stephen V. King's going to have to take a crack at it, but we can put around a general guideline or general kind of, this is how we sort of want it to work.
But what's really great about this is like... One of the best things about these type of films is watching them and having the twist revealed to you. The problem with us coming up with the twist is it won't be an enjoyable film to watch.
That's right, we can't ever watch it.
So we'll give Stephen V. King the general outline and say, but you have to put in a twist that we didn't even think of so we can actually go and watch and enjoy this film.
We'll have to have some stipulations as to what he can't do. So no time travel, no magic, no superpowers, nothing like that. Has to fit within the constraints of the world that we've built, but it has to be a twist that we didn't see coming. I was also thinking, alternatively, how we spun off movie film studios, the alternate ending unit? Maybe we get them going as well, because considering that the film that they were working on was stolen by Steven Spielberg.
Damn.
Technically, they could maybe produce some alternate endings for this film.
Instead of alternate endings... What about alternate beginnings? Has anyone ever thought of that? It's like, wow, a completely different beginning that somehow comes to the same ending.
Oh.
Maybe not. Maybe that's a little bit too difficult. Although, having said that, there's a really fantastic moment in the Guy Ritchie Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, where one story sort of like plays itself out and comes to a point, and then another story sort of plays itself out and comes to the same point, and the third story plays itself out and comes to the same point. It's kind of an alternate beginning, really. Yeah.
Ron Lola Ron did that.
Again, have not seen it.
Oh, you should probably see it.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I quite like that. So you can tell the same story from the perspective of like three different characters, and maybe they all have their own reason for like robbing Ramesses' tomb. And so by the time they show up and they've the grave robber traps are being sprung and the sand is pouring in and filling them up, then we can sort of like
So would these characters all be working together from the start, or will they all get there on their own accord?
I think we have, again, not to borrow too much from Cretaceon and the Seed of Life, but maybe we have like a few distinct groups of like three people who are all sort of independently working to great. Because I mean, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and they know that as soon as the tomb is sealed up, they're never going to be able to rob it again. So you have sort of three distinct groups, and then and it's their sort of intercut stories, and then they eventually all end up in the same spot at the same time.
That's a great, and then they all decide to work together. So that's the difference, right? So I think in Cretaceon, they're all self-motivated to the end, whereas these guys at around about the middle point of the film, they'll all meet up, realize that they're actually far stronger as a unit, and decide to go on together.
Yeah,
great.
Cue the jazz panpipes.
Okay, so let's just think of a general kind of way that we want this to work. So we're at that middle point now. They're all established themselves. We've got the vehicle expert. We've got the hieroglyphics expert. We've got the forgery, like the replica maker, the main guy. Yeah. We need demolitions.
We do need demolitions. I don't know. I think obviously gunpowder was a Chinese thing. I don't think it made its way across. Maybe he's more of a possibly like an architect type character who knows the layout of the buildings and also their keystone weak point sort of bits and pieces, so he can both tunnel in and demolish things on his way out.
Maybe he was like a slave whipper.
A slave whipper. That's was that a role? It could have been. I think the general consensus nowadays is that the building of the pyramids was far too complex for unskilled slaves to have done. It was probably actually done by skilled craftsmen.
Okay, so maybe he was a skilled craftsman.
Son of the guy who designed the tomb.
Yeah.
And then Ramesses came along and said, "You shall design no more tombs," and cut off his dad's hands.
So hang on, every character in this film, their fathers have all had their hands cut off for
various family
for whatever reason. So so we've got hieroglyphics.
What are you doing here? My dad stole a loaf of bread and he had his hands cut off. But that's pretty standard. Like, sure, most of us are here because our dad's hands cut off for not breaking the law. Yeah, it's like, but he was a thief and I'm a thief, so I'm here to steal stuff as well.
So hieroglyphics guy's father wrote like the most epic poem ever conceived, and you're like, well, no more poems out of you, hands cut off.
It's just like, but I can still speak poems. Out with your tongue. It's like, I really should have kept my mouth shut. Vehicle guy. His dad's an expert camel breeder or horse breeder or something like that. It's just like, why are you doing this, Ramesses? As it turns out, Ramesses II just has a thing for hands.
He's got a separate room in his vault and just has a collection of mummified hands.
Yeah, he's actually like, in Ramesses' mind, he's doing the humane thing because everyone else would have buried their servants with them and killed them. He's just like, I'm just taking their hands, guys. I'm not taking their lives.
That's fine.
I'm way better than my dad, Ramesses I. Like Ramesses I would have cut off the guy's head. I'm just doing hands, man. Yeah, you can't blame me. It's all nature versus nurture, and this is the way I was brought up. So. I mean, I'm trying my best to do the right thing, but, you've got to lose some body part, and it might as well be your hands.
It's just the way it is, guys. It's just the way it is. Do we need a gymnast? I'd like a kind of acrobat.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I quite like the traveling sort of menagerie that performs for the Pharaoh, and one of the trapeze artist, gymnast sort of people in there can... if we're talking about heist films, we'll bring up Entrapment, and Entrapment does... laser beams very, very well with months and months and months of training for Catherine Zeta-Jones to get through that instead of this stupid freaking parkour French man with moving laser beams. This would not work. This is a horrible, horrible film.
Moving random laser beams, I might add.
Yeah, just... Yeah, so I don't know what the equivalent of laser beams
what is
is.
I was going to say, is it just like a bunch of workers hidden beneath the walls, just sort of like blow darting constantly?
We discussed this with Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Like having these things operate thousands of years later, like you'll step on a precious stone and have the shoot a blow dart at you is like far less likely than like generations of tribesmen just like just hidden behind the wall with blow darts, just shooting at people.
And they can't get out of there though. So it's like, I reckon it could be just one family of blow dart people, and they're enclosed in there, and they're given food and water and all that kind of stuff, and they can breed in there, but that's it. So they're just trapped in there for all eternity, and they can't do anything but blow darts out of the wall.
Yeah. So we have, I think the Pharaoh's Tomb has blow dart traps, which I think it's a female gymnast, and she can sort of cartwheel her way through that if she wants to.
Let's use Cara Delevingne from we'll rescue her from Valerian
and Suicide Squad, I believe, is getting a sequel. So
really?
I have no idea if she signed on for that one, but yeah.
All right, she can be in our film as the gymnast.
So if we have 3 troops of people, we essentially need 3 Danny Ocean's characters, 3 Brad Pitt characters, and 3 Matt Damon characters. In each of those. Yeah. So,
but as we've established prior, they can be male or female. Doesn't really matter. So group 1, I think let's have we need a main Danny Ocean though.
Yeah.
Or our main Jimmy Logan.
Of those 3 groups of people. Collectively, one of them is the Danny Ocean 3, and one of them is the Brad Pitt 3, and one is the Matt Damon 3.
Great
so
idea.
you have the George Clooney, and then the George Clooney Matt Damon, and the George Clooney Brad Pitt, and then you have the Brad Pitt George Clooney, and the Brad Pitt the Brad Pitt Matt Damon, and the Matt Damon George Clooney, the Matt. You get it. You get the idea.
I get it. I'm on the same page.
So let's go team George Clooney. We need the George Clooney.
Yep. Who's a good leading man these days? And I mean, we need to find. I want to cast someone we've never cast before.
It's true. I mean, I was about to suggest Anna Kendrick, because I think she'd be great in that role, but she was in KNIG HDS.
Who else could we have? Good female character.
Yeah,
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
We haven't cast her in anything, and she is a very respectable actress. And I feel like she might be in the new Ocean's film. In fact, most of the female leads that I would cast are probably in that Ocean's film. Oh, do we want to go like... have we cast Judi Dench before?
We have. She was in Adventure Children as the female head of the Nazis.
What about Helen Mirren?
Helen Mirren, I think we were either going to get Helen Mirren or Jennifer Lawrence to play a young Helen Mirren. I'm thinking younger. I think we go like... have we cast Emma Watson?
No.
Yeah, I think she might be a good sort of... so if she's the George Clooney, then Clara Delevingne can be the George Clooney Matt Damon, and we can have like an all-female...
all-female leads. All right, great. So then the Brad Pitt...
Yeah, the George Clooney Brad Pitt, we have to have as sort of one of those young 20-ish up-and-coming female actresses.
What about the younger Fanning?
Ellie Fanning. I like that team. That's a really nice team. They're set on vengeance and righting their wrongs and taking their destiny into their own hands, sort of thing. That's fine.
Do you think it's also worth having a racially diverse cast in the same way that the Ocean's films have?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know how
instead of casting just as we have 3 attractive 20-something white females
for ancient Egypt.
Maybe it's true.
We're getting in the same trouble that Gods of Egypt film got into as well.
Yeah, we have just completely overlooked the fact that they are... I was going to say sub-Saharan, but I think that's supposed to be south of... They are Saharan in a lot of ways.
But they don't need to have come from Egypt. They could have traveled.
It's true.
Somehow.
So maybe we have like the traveling menagerie group has these 3 white European female types who have been sort of going from Gaul through to Greece performing, and now they're in Egypt. Maybe our main Egyptian people we go and cast those sort of I don't really know enough. Who plays the mummy in The Mummy?
Sofia Boutella, who I think is Mexican.
Oh right, okay. I mean, not
Spanish.
Again, that's probably being very racially insensitive. Just going.
There's a few actors I can think of, but I cannot remember their names for the life of me right now. Who we could cast. It's probably really bad that I can't remember their names, but look, we'll look into it.
You know who would be? I think again, without being Zoe Saldana, I think would be a really good main sort of female.
Yep.
I think she get into trouble recently for playing African American singer or something like that
for Ella Fitzgerald. Nina Simone.
Nina Simone.
That's right. And there was a lot of issue about that because she wasn't black enough, apparently.
I think the biggest issue I saw was she's too attractive. Apparently, one of the biggest things about Nina Simone is that she was, quite a she was not a particularly attractive person, but her voice and her songwriting and her musicianship was so good that it sort of, this is where it sort of, they cast this sort of, young and very attractive person against the role of someone who was, had to overcome the problems that, anyway.
That's a whole different kettle of fish, that one.
Yeah.
There's also Lupita Nyong'o. I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong. She plays Maz Kanata in Star Wars, and she also was in, I think, was she in 12 Years a Slave? Maybe.
It's true. We could just, I'm sure, I suppose, it is, Egypt is an African country, so we can just grab, a whole bunch of people. Actually, that's really, I can't say we can grab a whole bunch of people and not, have slavery connotations. Look, I sincerely apologize. We'll cast a whole bunch of people with African heritage.
It's going to be diverse. The film's going to be diverse because I think that the Ocean's films capture that kind of wide collection of personalities and people playing accents really terribly and so on and so forth. So we'll have that. We're going to have all of that.
If only we could cast Bernie Mac.
I know.
It's like the second week in a row where the absence of Bernie Mac has been a...
Yeah.
We got him to play the AI in Criterion.
Just through voice clips.
Not Criterion, sorry. Criterion. It will be part of the Criterion collection one day, which is where my confusion comes from.
All our films will be once we're bought out by Fox and then bought out by Disney.
Yeah.
After we've bought out a bunch of
other small studios.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I like how this film is going. So obviously, Stephen V. King is going to take a crack at the script.
Just twists upon twists upon twists.
Yeah. So obviously, the team succeeds. They're going to steal the gold.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to know how the film ends.
I'm sorry. I thought it was just assumed.
It could be Rogue One.
That could be the twist.
It could be, where everyone dies at the end.
That's right. Yeah, Stephen V. King could do anything.
Don't tell us, V. King. We want to enjoy our films. We can't come up with everything.
Well, we do need to come up with a name.
We do. That's a really tough one.
Which is a tough one. How many people are in this film? Is it 9? Is it 3 groups of 3?
I think we go with the 3 groups of 3.
Yeah.
9 main people.
9 down the Nile.
Oh, I like the play on 9 and Nile.
Yeah.
I was about to say Nile of the Egypt. I'm like the issue is, so you have the Jewel of the Nile and Romancing the Stone of sort of more that sort of like treasure hunting, action adventure sort of Indiana Jones type films. And you sort of like, I don't know, Logan Lucky is very sort of
maybe we
two words, Ocean's 11.
Maybe we just call it Nile, but we somehow squeeze the word 9 in there as part of the graphic design for it.
Yeah.
So, can we squeeze the actual number 9 into Nile?
I think what we do is that we create our own letter, which is simultaneously an N and an L.
Yep.
And people are like, "Oh, did you see the new film Nile?" And you're like, "Don't you mean the new film 9?"
Yeah. And
it's just like people don't really know. Is it one? Is it the other? It's both simultaneously.
Yeah. So if you search for Nile, you'll get our film. If you search for 9, you'll also get our film.
I mean, it's very, very difficult to search because the 27th letter of the alphabet, which is simultaneously L and N, is not on keyboards yet. No. But as you mentioned, we are potentially going into the field of making our own equipment to be able to stream it. So whatever tablet you get, which is a movie film studio tablet, will have that whole bunch of extra keys for letters and words that don't even exist.
It should just be
yet.
like every key on the keyboard should just be a name of one of our productions. So you don't even need to type out like every individual letter. You just type in like, oh, I want to see KNIGHTS, and you just hit that button.
Exactly. It's like Shift 2. Shouldn't that be like at? It's like, no, Shift 2 is Adventure Children. It just brings up Adventure Children.
Yeah, great. All right, this is brilliant. So Nile 9.
I don't know how you would say it. Nylon. Sure.
Ninal.
It doesn't end in L.
No, well.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. You say it just as Nine or Nile, and just people look at you confused because they're not sure what you're talking about, and you're not sure what they're talking about.
But when we're bored out, everyone's going to know what we're talking about.
Exactly. So it is the ancient Egyptian tomb robbing heist that the public has been demanding for years, with twist endings that not even the movie studio people who came up with the story know about.
Oh, I think that's a wrap.
Oh, that is absolutely a wrap on Nile. Or Nile or Nine, whichever one you choose.
Either or.
Great. All right. Any housekeeping? Do we have?
Yeah, housekeeping as per usual. We are on the internet as we're on various places actually. We have a website, moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find all our episodes and some pictures of us, because of course you want to see pictures of us in a podcast. We're on Facebook, where you can post answers to the clues that Isaac puts up every week that hint at what the next podcast episode is going to be.
Yeah, no idea how I'm going to do Logan Lucky. Although maybe it'll be good because people have been getting them a little bit faster. The fact that another film has come out called Logan this year, means that a few red herrings in there. Who knows?
Well, do we need to also congratulate who got the answer right?
I already did. I last week, at the end of our episode, I congratulated the two people who got it right preemptively. So
great.
I'm not going to congratulate anyone this week because no one got it right, or that's what I'm assuming.
Everyone got it right.
Or everyone got it right, or the two people who got it right. Congratulations, you two people.
Yep.
The four people who guessed wrong. Better luck next time, four people. And the six people who liked the comment, also good. And thanks to my aunt who likes, but I think has absolutely no idea exactly what's going on, and also but is just very supportive.
For the hundreds of millions of people that are completely unaware that we exist, thanks.
You say hundreds of millions. It is legitimately in the billions. But having said that, I mean, that's pretty much the same with anyone. Anyone who has a following of more than a billion people is doing pretty well. So,
we're also on Twitter. We're at Movie Film Studio on Twitter. Again, I don't know why. Find us on iTunes. Find us on any other place where good podcasts are found. If they're being sold on that site, you should really demand a refund because you should not be paying money
this is
for this at all.
Absolutely going out for free.
And I think that's it.
Yeah. All right. So once again, thank you for listening to Movie Film Studios. I have been Isaac.
And I've been AJ.
Roll credits.